I am a photographer who lives in Rose Valley, Pennsylvania. My name is Carl Finkbeiner. I feel privileged to have observed over the years my community's idiosyncrasies and its many beauties, like this view from my driveway on a spring morning. In the process of observing Rose Valley, I have seen that it has repeated a pattern that I have noticed elsewhere in the flow of art through cities. In this pattern, industrial buildings are abandoned as business moves away. Artists seek out studio and living space there because it's cheaper and has big spaces. Galleries and shops spring up to serve them, attracting other businesses and institutions as developers start gentrifying and renovating. Gentrification is not always kind to a community, and sometimes it drives out the artist who started the process. But when the whole process works right, art stays and a balance is struck to form a uniquely connected community. Something very like that has happened here in Rose Valley. I will only be showing you images from the past 5 years. This is not a documentary history of Rose Valley, nor is it comprehensive. But it will be a story tracing the pattern I just described, using images providing impressions and feelings of this place to evoke our history. I give you this visual slice in time so you can see what I see here and feel what I feel while hearing the whispers of the past that I hear when I see this place. Perhaps from that you will get a deeper understanding of the Rose Valley I and many other people love so much. To illustrate the reverence many of us feel for Rose Valley, I turn to my friend Morris Potter, president of the Rose Valley Museum. Having spent most of her life here, she knows every place and almost every person. On a recent walk, I asked her if she ever got bored with something so familiar to her. She turned to me with an incredulous look and said, "No, this place is pure magic. I will do this forever." "Lead on," I said. I think of Rose Valley in terms of 3 main eras. First, the waterways and their mills. Then the arts and crafts movement. And finally, a wildly interconnected community. Here in part 1, I will begin a long time ago. One of the first things I noticed about Rose Valley when I moved here is that there is running water everywhere, streams and creeks and runs and wetlands. Water here is framed by the landscape and provides a rich accent to it. It has both a restless and an eternal feel. Water has been here forever, of course, but its permanence possesses the tranquility of continual change, of constant, quiet motion, reminding us that things always move on in this place, even when everything else is frozen. Rapids and waterfalls abound on what is aptly named the fall line. The fall line is the geography along the East Coast, where the drop from uplands to coastal plains propels water abruptly and rapidly downward. The streams here attracted European settlers 340 years ago, particularly 3 brothers from England named Thomas, Robert, and Randall Vernon. Vernon Run, the stream running through the heart of Rose Valley, was named after them. Fast-moving water inevitably meant mills, 3 at least in Rose Valley. The first of them, originally the Stimmel Mill and now called simply the Old Mill, was built to make snuff in 1789 on Ridley Creek, the largest creek in Rose Valley. Milling was attempted with snuff, willow bark for fever, paper, animal feed, wood turning, and textiles. For about 100 years, mills were built here on the waterways and eventually failed. One mill, Hutton's Mill, left behind rapids at a broken-down dam that originally drove a mill race down the hill, diverting some of the waters of Vernon Run. It also left picturesque ruins of that dam, built where Minquist Run empties into Vernon Run. The pond formed there over a century ago to feed the mill race was used as a local swimming hole for many decades. Those mills in Rose Valley were built and failed repeatedly, with more than one fire damaging them. Milling of local products was tried for various agricultural ventures in the area. By the late 1800s, those industries moved elsewhere and the mills finally ceased operating altogether, leaving behind picturesque buildings and ruins. Rose Valley slumbered, comprised mostly now of small farms and a few residences. The story might have ended there, but as you will see in Part 2, exciting times were coming among those abandoned ruins.